Namaste. We welcome you all to the virtual platform of Swar-Akshar, Canada. Swar-Akshar is a group of literature and art-loving friends in Greater Toronto area. And before I introduce our guest today, I would like to acknowledge and thank our friends Asuben and Manubai Patel for giving me the opportunity to read Maithili's book of Smita Patil, and Sri Amrit by Gangar, who's a well-known personality in the film industry in world over, who got me in touch with Maithili. And of course, thank you, Maithili, for accepting our invitation. So a tiny bit of housekeeping. Please ensure your iPhone, iPad, computers are on mute except the guest. And any time, yes, there was another point that we will normally we have Q&A at the end of the talk, but this time we are going to make a little change, and we'll have it somewhere halfway through for the first part of the talk, the question answer, and then we'll get on to the second. It'll be about 10 or 12 minutes of Q&A. So please, when we get to that point, keep your questions short. You'll have time to have your feedback about the session at the end of the session. So today we are very glad to present our guest, Maithili Rao. Maithili is a film critic, writer, an ex-English lecturer, and a member of jury at national and international film festivals. Of many of her writings, let me briefly talk about the two books that Maithili has written. The first one is Smita Patil, A Brief Incandescence. And the second one is The Millennial Woman in Bollywood, A New Brand. So Shyam Benegal wrote in his foreword in Smita Patil's book that Maithili Rao's well-researched book is an extremely perceptive introduction to Smita's life and her exceptional work as an actor in Indian cinema. Unquote. Having read the book, I echo Benegal's words about Maithili's writing. Her writing reminds me of the famous critic Susan Sontag's essay about content and style of writing. Maithili has a very unique writing style. And I'll give you a small example or a little insight into it. While writing about a lesser-known film of Smita Patil, Kondura, Benegal's only film in Telugu, she has described a scene that Govind Nehlani, the cinematographer, is shooting Smita Patil's a particular scene. And I quote, "The scene can also be read as an oblique tribute to one of the most famous tropes of Hindi cinema, V.K. Murthy's camera gliding up from Choti Bau's ultra decorated feet, up the rich folds of her silken sari over a bejeweled neck to rest on her face." The film, of course, is Sahib Bibi or Gulam, and V.K. Murthy is Govind Nehlani's guru. So this is one of the teasers that lodges itself in the mind of a critic, an occupational hazard of sorts, unquote. In her second book, The Millennial Woman in Bollywood, A New Brand, Maithili asks, is the millennial woman more than a media myth? A changing ecosystem births the millennial woman as a brand. In here, she looks at the evolution of new woman from late 1930s to the present. She goes on to say that millennial is not just a buzzword to be bandied about every context. And Maithili also notes that even though the film industry continues to be male-dominated, the representation of women in films has become truer of changing social and cultural reality. And I quote Shabana Azmi, who wrote the foreword for this book. Maithili Rao explores the millennial woman in all her facets in this book. Her book celebrates this new freedom and analyzes the compromises demanded by the particular genre and its narrative style. Rao has had an abiding interest in the portrayal of women almost from the time she started writing on cinema. It is feminist perspective without arcane academic rigidity. I enjoyed reading it immensely. I'm sure you will too. Unquote. I welcome Maithili to talk about iconic women of India in Hindi cinema. Maithili.
Thank you, Shailesh ji, for such an elaborate introduction. And it makes me very glad that you have read the book so closely, both the books. And nothing pleases a writer more than, a reader who's so perceptive and picks out certain things that I had forgotten because Smita Patil is, that I think came out in 2015. And the reference to V.K. Murthy's shooting of Choti Bahu in Sahib Bibi Gulam, and how Govind does, a similar kind of a tribute, come maybe unconscious learning habit from his guru that he's used in this. Thank you so much for those insights. I'm really very pleased. And actually, when we had a prior meeting yesterday, I suggested that we have that break uh, in two parts because the subject when we talked about was going to be iconic women in Hindi cinema. So for me it meant that you can't start with my two books. I'm going to talk about what I wrote in the Smita Patil book and the new book, but nothing exists in vacuum. So film history has a connect going back, reflecting the past, and again it shows its connect to the present also. So I think this is, as he quoted, occupational hazard for a critic, because you see connections everywhere. Something that seems only for this film, you remember a similar kind of a scene in an earlier film, and then you try to connect it thematically or stylistically. So I beg your indulgence if I make those kind of connections, because that's what you like when you're writing about cinema. You just don't want to write just what is before you on the screen. You try to find a subtext to it. So that's why I said, let me go back to the iconic women of Hindi cinema. And I'm limiting myself to Hindi cinema, which itself is a vast subject. And if you have to, bring into whole Indian cinema, there's no end to it. We have to have, and I'm not uh, competent enough because I can't claim to have seen films in all the languages and the rich history that each region has in cinema. So, coming back, I think it all begins with what is an icon. We are very, you know, sometimes we use these words like cliches, or sometimes they're like instant coffee, you can't have an instant icon. Icons are something that are a product of their age, and then they should have a lasting resonance over decades, because certain films, the PR machine goes and says, This is an iconic portrayal, this is an iconic film," and 2 years later you don't even remember that film. So you have to disregard some of the PR, hype, and then go back and see whether this film stands the test of time and how it resonates decades later. So that's why, in my um, take on women in Indian cinema, there are two archetypes and another iconic figure who have uh, whose descendants continue to live on in different avatars in Hindi cinema. So, first, of course, is Mother India. I don't have to talk much. I think everybody has seen that film. But for me, there is I think for a lot of critics over the last 20, 30 years, Mother India presents a bit of a problem in the sense that she's celebrated as this um, almost like equated with the Indian nation. And that is a sort of a problem because her honor, her chastity, her sense of duty is something that is serving patriarchy, not so much herself in this. So that is the paradox I find in Mother India because she's the moral center of the film. She's the upholder of dharma. At the same time, what she does shooting the son, I think who you feel that she loves him more than the rebellious, naughty son, much more than the good son. Like, you have this kind of a dichotomy in films. So, and then she shoots him down because he's kidnapped the moneylender's daughter. And it's so, if you remember the beginning of Mother India, she is the old matriarch is asked to inaugurate a irrigation project, and when the water gushes out, her hands she sees they are like bloody because that blood of her son is still on her hands. It's like almost, it's not on par with Lady Macbeth washing her hands, but that guilt is still with her. So, in one sense, Mehboob remade his earlier film, black and white, much more restrained film, into this grand epic film. And that comes soon after independence. So it's a very deliberate political statement and an equating Radha with Mother Earth and Mother India. So that's why you feel that she is more stoic and strong and courageous and grows into this very respected matriarch of that village. But at the same time, she isn't a tragic figure. She's a figure that's an image of duty put before dharma, put before her personal emotions. So, but such a strong figure when she's transported the mother figure to an urban setting like Diwar. I mean, the next descendant would be Sumitra of Diwar. There again, she has these two sons. One has chosen the path of crime, and the other one is the policeman, the younger son. And everybody knows the word, those lines, iconic lines, mere paas maa hai. That's the, because she rejects Vijay Amitabh Bachchan because the way he has gone to for his materialistic gain is the path of crime, and she will not condone it. But at the same time, she is not the executor and upholder of dharma as Radha was in Mother India. It's the younger son who's shoots the brother dead, and he's dying in the temple, and she cradles the dying son in her arms, and then she's, her remorse and her emotional, she's devastated at that time. So, in that sense, she's no longer an active ingredient, active participant in the unfolding drama. And when you go to the next important mother figure in Hindi cinema, there's Rakhi in Khalnayak. She raves and rants at the errant son, but she won't even be able to aim the gun at her son. It's just like, it's almost as if her will is getting paralyzed over the years. And the other film in this line, in this, when you trace down Mother India's descendants, I find it in Fizza. In Fizza, there is both. And Fiza, what happens is the son, it's the post 1893 riots in Bombay. So it's like the polarization in society comes very much to the fore at that point in Indian history. And so the Hrithik Roshan character has joined a terrorist organization. And Jab Bachchan, who is the mother, keeps making visits to the police station to find the missing persons report, whether they have any information. But she can't, and she's just waiting for the son. And the sister, she traces, she finds him, and she's the one now who takes up the moral stance, and she shoots the brother dead. So, these are the descendants of Mother India in various forms down the decades. And somewhere around the 90s, when there is a globalization comes first, making its uh, effects felt in portrayal of so many things in the style and the stylistics uh, and the storytelling narrative patterns and all that change to, I think, somehow to cater to a audience that is exposed to other kinds of cinema, because of cable TV also has come in at that point. So at that point you find that this, till now, the woman behind the mother is somewhere lost. She's actually made a desexualized person. Now, when you see, you come to Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, you find Reema Lagu as the bride's mother, and they have this, so many musical evenings. There's like a song between the bride's side and the bridegroom side. They're singing, and there's a little coy uh, flirtation going on. She's still a very attractive woman, matronly but attractive woman. So that is being restored to the mother figure, which is, I think, is like a recognition that motherhood is not all that defines a woman, that she has other aspects to her personality still. And not many might have seen the this millennial film called Ka and Ki. It was role reversal in marriage. He's a stay-at-home husband, and she's on the path to becoming a CEO of a country, of a company. But the girl's mother, that is Karina Kapoor's mother, she's very okay with this dating and then going together. She doesn't insist that they get married immediately. She asks them, she says, "Did you have sex?" With a very, because she wants to find if they're compatible in that. So then it's almost like normally asking, like, "Did you have your vitamins today?" The tone, the moralistic tone is gone at this time. So these are the attitudinal changes you find in a few films, and they are the more important examples of that. Ka Aur Ki was not a critically or a commercially successful film, but it still has its place in this evolution of attitudes, and then change in the moral stance of families. So, this is the one archetype I dealt with. The other one is the Tawaif, as the romantic other, unattainable romantic other, because she's there part of um, Urdu literature and so much of many films, because we also have this, the Muslim social was a kind of a genre that was there very much alive in the 40s, 50s, and partly even in the 60s. We had beautiful music and lovely lyrics and that courtly style. So it had its own particular place. But the tawaif at that point is Pakiza, purity. I mean, there's the ironic, the name itself means that she embodies purity. And she's, but then she's the stigma of coming from a quota is always there around her. And then there is that, I suppose anyone who's seen Pakiza won't forget that scene in the train when Rajkumar gets into the train and then leaves the letter. आपके पाँव देखे, पैर देखे, बहुत खूबसूरत है, इन्हें जमीन पर मत रखिएगा, मैले हो जाएंगे. And that's the poetic and ironical pathos of the film. And those same feet have to dance on shards of glass towards the climax. And then that's how she sort of, I think, that kind of I don't know, and subconsciously a certain kind of a punishment for her station in life. It's, you know, that it's a very powerful image which you find again in Sholay, which has nothing to do. I mean, Dhanno in Sholay has nothing to do. She's a villager, Tangewali of the village, but she also has to Jab Tak Hai Jaan, that song, and she's again, there is glass pieces shattered there, and she dances. And I wonder, is this a kind of a masochistic punishment that the filmmaker is giving, and the woman is internalizing her own punishment for whatever transgressions she she thinks she may have committed? You know, because these images are very powerful. It's something that you can't just brush under the carpet. I mean, after years and years of, you have not watched Pakiza or Sholay lately, but among the many images that remain from these films are this. And then you had Umrao Jan, the other great film about the wife, and she's much more accomplished. She's a poet herself, though actually in the film they have not really used the poetry that she has written. These are the regular, I forget who are the, I don't know whether it was Majru Sultanpuri, I don't know who wrote the.
Shahriyar. It was Shahriyar.
Shahriyar wrote. Okay, I wasn't sure. So you have all the Dil Cheez Kya Hai, and then, you know, all these songs were not what she herself wrote. This was one of the criticism that was made, that Muzaffar Ali didn't use her original literature, what she wrote. But there again, she is like queening over Lucknow society, and she has these people from the the upper classes, the Nawabi classes, coming to her salon as such. It's not like just like a kotha, because there is a different kind of an atmosphere. It's more, what's it, there is so much of adab and there is so much of tehzeeb over there in those scenes. At the same time, she doesn't get the man she loves, doesn't have the courage to stand by her. So from these high points of Pakiza and Umrao Jan, and then in Mere Mehboob also, Nimi is the wife sister of the hero. So, you know, after all this, what has happened is the whole this archetype that was there in a collective imagination has come down to Chandni Bar. So where have the courtliness of the, and because these were not just like courtesans, they were like accomplished in music and dance, in poetry, and this kind of courtly manners. The language was so good, you know. So from there down to a dance bar in Bombay, and Tabu plays that. I mean, she's an orphaned girl who's come from UP down to the sleazy part of Bombay. So it's almost as if the decline in Urdu and marginalization of that society has now come down to this. And of course, every kind of she's there in the dance bar, a prey to cops, lechers, and gangsters. And she does make a life for herself, but then there is never any sukoon or peace for her. She, with her children also, even when she has given up her dancing in the dance bars. So, and actually, in my uh, in my book, whereas this one, The Millennial Woman, I have a chapter called Women at Work. And in that, among the other ones, people, working women, I also have included Chandni Bar because it is a work that she's doing. And I've quoted a lot from Samina Dalwai, who's done a lot of research into the sociological aspect of these dance bars in Bombay. There were these kind of dance bars in Delhi and other cities, but somehow it has always been the Bombay dance bars that have been the target of um, social reformers, or what do you call, people with a sense of mission that we have to rescue these women. They're dens of iniquity, and they're corrupting society. All kinds of they were made the target till I think went to courts. They were suspended. They came back. So she's written a sociological analysis of the class of people who go to the dance bars. These are the newly rich people from globalization, and they feel empowered. These are the working class men who now got a little money, and when they go to the dance bars and spend money over there, they, for the moment, they feel like they are like those rice people who would go to quotas earlier. So a film is not just a film, a story that mirror, of a particular situation. There are so many layers and subtext to it that if you have the willingness to go deeper into it, you find these kind of connections. So these were the two archetypes, and you trace them down the decades. And the other one, I won't call her an archetype, because she's a rebel, the first rebel of Indian cinema. That is Nirmala, played by Shanta Apte in Kumku was the Marathi version, and Dunyana Mani is the Hindi version, made in the 30s. And I don't know how many of you have seen the film. Uh, I think maybe even if you saw it, it must have been very long ago. For me, it's a very, very important landmark in Indian cinema, because there it is. She's again an orphan who's married off to a much older man who has children who are older than her. And she thinks she's tricked into the marriage. She doesn't know that the groom selected for her is this older man. She thinks he's the uncle of the other person who's come to see her. And her mama gets her married off, and she rebels. She will not accept him. She's like India's first domestic guerrilla, in a sense, because her rebellion is within the house. She's not going out on the street and demonstrating. This is a very conservative, Brahminical uh, Maharashtrian location. It seems like a small town Maharashtra. And husband is a lawyer, very well respected, but she will not accept him as a husband. And she's her rebellion is quiet but limited inside the house, but she makes her point felt till her husband feels guilty. Because one day the son, her stepson, tries to come and get familiar with her, and she just will not tolerate it and slaps him. And then the father, the husband, feels that what he's done is morally reprehensible. It's not to be condoned at all in any sense. And there is one particular scene in that film, after she gets ready, after she has a bath and comes and sits down, she's sitting on the floor, and there is that kind of an old fashioned wooden box where you can open, and the mirror is there, and her kumkum bharni is there inside that. She takes the kumkum, but she hesitates to put it on, because that symbolizes her marital status. So she keeps hesitating, should I put on the kumkum or no? And then, but she gives in, because as a married woman and as a even unmarried Hindu girls wear a bindi. So she just puts the kumkum and it stays in your mind. And finally, the husband commits suicide. And another interesting factor about Dunyana Mane is the older daughter, stepdaughter, is a freedom fighter and also a fighter for women's rights. And who plays that part? Sai Paranjpe's very famous mother. She is plays the role of this daughter. So, so she is Shanta Apte again. She looks like this meek, Gharelu kind of a girl, but in real life, Shanta Apte was a kind of a firebrand uh, in her views, and she was like an icon to young people of that age. You've heard of Iqbal Masood, the late film critic who used to write in this time in Indian Express, other places. So he was a student in Presidency College in Madras, and the Students' Union had invited Shanta Apte to come to their function, and they go to receive her at the Madras railway station. She gets down from the train in trousers and a hat, and like they were sort of, in those days they were taken aback of a film star getting down in this getup. And my mother used to say that Shanta Apte was their heroine for their generation. So even before social media and other things come, the powerful impact an actor made through a film like that had this kind of a following. I mean, that's what I think the power of cinema. And I mean, it was those days when there is the reform. The reform movement is very strong in Maharashtra. Social reform, women's education, and widow remarriage, all these are, and then caste discrimination. You know that Maharashtra has had a very strong movement, the social reform movement. So like
Maithili ji,
Shanta, they
sorry,
symbolize that.
sorry, Maithili ji.
And became,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
There is a little bit of lag and breaking of what you're saying. So I'm not too sure, but let's.
The last few sentences you said were kind of staticky.
You mean my audio is getting
Yes,
delayed?
audio is getting
Audio?
disturbed. Yeah.
And we lost.
I don't know, because I think my signal is quite spinach signal, so I don't know what to do for that.
Just if only if you have headphones or so, if you can get that, maybe it may work. The headphones.
Oh, I don't use headphones. Give me a headache.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
don't have them here.
You
Okay, this we should have foreseen this program, I guess. I mean, this problem could have happened, but does it still continue?
Yes,
that yeah, it's not
as clear as it was before.
unless we can try with our friends in the audience, if you can bear with us. Maithili ji, want to get off and come back and see if it works. Join again.
Okay, join again, join again.
Leave and join again. Yeah.
Leave and join.
The same link. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
Sorry, friends, and thank you for just being patient with us.
You may want to start talking, see if it's any better. I know you're not left and rejoined. Maithili ji?
I'm just joining.
Yeah, you're good.
You're fine. Just be the way you are. Don't do anything.
Let's go. Continue.
Continue. Yeah, you're fine.
Continue. Join audio.
Yeah.
Yep. This is fine.
This is
Mute.
fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, then I won't come. I won't come video.
You're fine. Your audio, video. Oh, she just
ટેકનિકલ વાંધો હતો એટલે કે બધા all of you leave it.
But
No, we're not saying everybody to leave. It's only Maithili ji who left, and she should join back. Sorry guys for the inconvenience. Let me see.
એ લોકો મ્યુટ કરો. મ્યુટ જ છે.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, I'm so sorry for this interruption, and I'm not at all tech savvy working. So I was talking about Shanta Apte of Dunya Na Mane being the first rebel, as I called her, the domestic guerrilla, and she has set not the template, but as a kind of an idea of in Indian society. So I don't call her because she's an icon, and because if you see the rebellious women in Indian cinema, you find that each problem?
Maithili ji, I think we still have the disturbance. The only thing I can suggest is you want to go back a little bit, give room between the computer and yourself and see if that works. Yeah.
Go back.
Yeah.
You mean physically?
Yeah, physically, yes.
Okay. Is this okay now?
And another suggestion we are
So,
getting from a friend is that you can, if this continues, we can switch off the video. That may help. Let's continue this way and see.
Okay. Shall I switch off the video?
Not right
Just
now.
be audio?
This is okay.
Let's-
Continue and we'll let you know.
Okay. So, as I said, each rebel is a rebel with her own cause and with her own personality and with her own battle. So, you find this kind of rebellious woman in Hindi cinema coming down, tracing down from there. So, even that way, you find that any strong woman character that you have in either popular cinema or you have her in parallel cinema or the other cinema, she's always has her own voice, speaks in her own voice. So you come down, I think you find this more strongly in
Maithili ji, sorry. Sorry, Maithili ji. You may want to physically stay back a little bit, and let's try with switching off the video. It's very we will not like it, but let's see if we can
put off the video.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, never mind.
No, I don't think it's helping.
Okay, is this okay now?
Little better, but not.
And physically, if you can stay a little bit away from the screen, see if that works. And video is not making so much. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you know, if you
This is
see
working.
you find the, huh?
This is working. So switch on the video and stay
No,
how
no,
you.
I will not. Let's not have the video. You've seen me enough now. Let's just go back. Just go with the audio right now. Okay.
Okay,
So let's not have more interruptions.
Okay.
As long as you can hear me, that's okay. So I think before we come to the rebels, because that's very much part of my new book, both the books, Smita Patil and the other book, the new book. The other films, the other iconic characters that we have in the golden age of Hindi cinema, Meena Kumari as Choti Bahu. Then you have Nutan as Kalyani in Bandini. And then you have, of course, Wahida Rahman as Rosie in Guide. Each is a rebel in her own way. Because Choti Bahu is a middle class woman married into this zamindari family, and she's not content with being the uh, just wife in name, and hardly sees a husband who spends all his time in the quotas, or he's in the the kabutar. They have that other gaming with the thing, the flying kabutars. So she is like the Choti Bahu is the first truly tragic character that you have in Hindi cinema. Character and a stoic character. You can say Radha's fate is tragic, yes, but still she bears it with a stoicism that is there, very much part of the Indian peasant's life. But it's not the same as in Choti Bahu's case. Choti Bahu has different aspirations. She wants a companionship with her husband, and she's not happy to be just wearing these, gehne tudwao, gehne banwao. That's what he says. That's what the women of the family do when they're bored. But she comes from a different club. She's not from the feudal background, and she wants to do everything she can to get her husband back. So, to the extent that if you see the first sight of Meena Kumari is presented like an icon. Before you see her presence, you hear her voice, because there is that, you see it all through Bhutnath's Guru, that the character that he plays. He's a newcomer to this koti, and then he hears this voice, and it's like and I can only describe Meena Kumari's voice as wine drenched. It's like intoxicating, a voice made to recite poetry and to you know express deep emotion. And so even before you see her, she tells Bhutan, "Ah, bite jaw." And then he first looks at her feet. And there comes the description. You see her feet with alta on it, the camera slowly gliding up till you come to her face. It's almost the face of a goddess, but in a human form. And the strange bond that develops between the two of them. And she wants him to get that sindoor, magical sindoor, the power of advertising. Even in those days, she believes that if you wear that sindoor, her husband will come back to her. So there is both naivety as well as longing and then a certain kind of a sensuousness that is there, embodied in her, with dignity. So, and then her flaw, I mean, a tragic character has to have a tragic flaw. And her way of getting a husband is she drinks with him and she becomes addicted to drink. And then and her death is mysterious. Only later, when you see Bhutnath, now a supervisor, and there's the ruins of this old Haveli. He sees a skeleton. They're digging up the skeleton, and then he notices the kada that Choti Bahu was wearing. So her death is in anonymity. This woman of such splendid presence is now dies in anonymity. So it's truly tragic. And again, Nutan is again, she's played different kinds of roles, but her role in Bandini is remarkable as Kalyani, a girl in the village, I think, with an educated father, and she falls in hopelessly in love with this revolutionary who's come to the village, and he leaves as mysteriously. She follows him, tries to find him in the city, and sees that he's his wife, who's like hysterical woman in that house, making all these demands. And the hammering, I mean, the scene is, I think Dimal Roy does it so brilliantly. There is that black and white shadows, bars going around, and then the hammering going on in the factory next door. It's almost as if people are hammering on her brain, and she poisons the woman. The rage spent, her repentance is truly, what do you say, saint like. She looks after a person who's a tuberculosis patient. And the way she's presented the first time among the group of women who come out to the jailer, she's got a black shawl on her face, and a face, that fine boned, high cheekbones, and defined face. And it's almost looks like an Amrita Shergill painting to me. and and then she will not she's almost prepared to go out and marry this jailer who wants to take her home. But when she sees the ailing sick, the first love of her life, she goes back with him. I mean, it's many people have questioned that why does she go back to the man who sort of betrayed her. But then you see it in the time of her time, because it's also a political cause for freedom, as well as this uh, the first man she's fallen in love with. So, and then these two are the other iconic characters, but then I don't think you see any echoes of these characters in any of the other films, subsequent films. And Rosie of Guide is, I think, only Wahida Rahman could have played that role with such, a lightness of being, at the same time trying to get to her freedom. And of course, it is R.K. Narayan's novel. Rosie in the book is very different from the Rosie you see on the screen. But, and the disillusionment with this man, Raju the guide, and she feels betrayed both by her husband as well as by this man. So I think she was told not to take up this role because she was at the height of her popularity, that you can't play a character who walks out on her marriage. A married woman having an affair with or at least they don't show an affair, but falling in love with another man. I think that is something that was like radical for those times. But the film went on. Of course, the music, everything else worked for the film. So these were I think the golden age of Hindi cinema stops here. Then you have this arid period of uh, 80s were a difficult, really bad time for Hindi cinema, mainstream cinema, whereas the popular cinema, the parallel cinema had come into its own. So I want to stop here and see whether you have any questions before we go to the 90s. Because for me, the major changes have come in the 90s. So, Shaileshji, if there are any questions, you can just
Sure. Sure. So, friends, as I had said at the beginning of Maithili's talk, if there are any questions, short question, and we can take it from there. Raise your hands. Okay, let's start with Abhimanyu.
Hello, ma'am, and thanks a lot for your insights onto the history of those two tropes of the mother and the tabaif. I want to know a little bit about another trope that was prevalent throughout the history of Hindi cinema, which is the trope of the bahu, which can sometimes double as 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 also the mother, but the trope of the daughter-in-law, and how that has eventually maybe evolved or transformed or not. I just want to know your thoughts on that particular trope as well. Uh, yeah, thanks.
Thank you for the question, but I haven't really thought about the Bahu. The Bahu has always been like, uh, she's been like two different characters in popular cinema. Either the good Bahu, the obedient Bahu, who will respect her elders, who will keep the family together, or the disruptive force, who's normally comes from a different. If it's a sort of setting, the Bahu has come from a city bed, and he wants to break up the family, wants to take the husband away, and more seen as more selfish. I mean, it falls from this trope has become very stereotypical. I mean, when you had the family dramas, the what you call they used to call it the Madras formula, the joint family where there is always the bahu, if there are two or three bahus, the kitchen politics between them and the disruptor. And I think there was many, I think they become like an indistinguished mass. Only one film I remember in all this, that is called something called Sansar with Rekha in it. She's the older bahu, and they divide the family home into with a line chalk that they're on either side there, because it's all becomes like economic. But the
Hmm.
daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law, and she's going to be, I think, she's pregnant and is going to have a child for the first time. So uh, she wants the guidance and the warmth from her mother-in-law. So this was like it was shown up as a practical answer
Hmm.
to the problem of joint families in a setting where people's earnings are unequal. So,
Hmm.
and this supposed to like in a way solve it. Be together, but have your separate units so that you can live in harmony. I mean, I
Right.
haven't seen it in recent times, but I remember it was I think, a Tamil film that was remade in Hindi.
I
So,
see.
so it becomes like, here it becomes like personal ambitions
Hmm.
disrupting the family, the joint family unit.
Hmm. Right. I see. Okay. No, thanks. Yeah, that is helpful, especially the reference to Rekha film.
Yeah,
I'd
it was
like to
called
check it out.
Sansar.
Sansar, okay. Yeah, okay. I'd
Yes,
like to check it out. Thanks a lot, Maithili. Yeah.
you're welcome.
Yeah, Devan, Devan has a question. Unmute yourself. Devan, unmute yourself and ask question. And friends, the reason I have turned off videos for some of yours because with Anuradhaji's suggestion to turn off video, I think we are getting better audio also from our speaker Maithili ji. So Devang, you have raised your hand, but I don't see you being unmuted. Okay, his phone is not working, so we can let it go. If nobody else has any questions, Surendraji, yes, go ahead. Surendraji, unmute yourself.
Thank you. Thank you, Shailesh Bhai, Nita Behan. Maithili ji, I don't have a question. I have a comment, which is you deserve unqualified congratulations for your such minute observation of all that you have presented, particularly in today's session about Indian heroine, that may not be the right word, as the mother, as the wife, and as rebel. And the examples that you gave are not only very illustrious, but heads off to you. And in particular, what I noted, where you again should be complimented, is your minute observation about Kunku in Marathi and Duniya Na Maane in Hindi. I have had the good fortune of watching both these films. Now, about the observation that I'm talking about is where Shanta Apte's character takes out a box and looks at herself in the mirror and is about to apply kunku, and she hesitates and eventually does. That is, a landmark situation or sequence in Hindi cinema, if I may say so. And I'm just not repeating what you said, but again, congratulations to you. Also, the three examples of rebels that you gave, yes, those two. And the evolution of mother, starting from Mother India, of course, it goes back to Mehboob's original Aurat. Again, I've had the good fortune of seeing both. And that's all I have to say today. I'll only say this in the end. We are the richer by listening to you, to your discourse, if I may say so. Thanks very much. Wish you all the best. Thank you again. Thank you, Shailesh Bhai, Nita Behan, for giving me this opportunity. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Surendra.
Thank you, thank you, Devangji. Thank you. Thank you for your very kind words.
Yeah, that was Surendra.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if we
We can go back if there are no more questions.
There is
we
one
can
more.
resume.
Maithili,
Okay.
there is one more. Mehulji, go ahead.
Yeah, Namaste, Maithili ji. Movies are seen as a reflection of the society, and especially in the olden days when women's cause was to be emancipated, many of the themes were such that they were trying to project out uh, the concerns of the society against atrocities to women. At the same time, movies are also seen to be precursor to bringing revolution in the society. Considering your experience with the movies and everything, would you like to share some thoughts where movies have played a role of bringing some revolution or improvement in the society in the other way? You may not answer directly now, but in the course of your discourse as we go on. Thank you.
Okay, I think I think as we talk about more films, we might say, because I don't think with movies you have a direct cause and effect situation. Movies work in a very indirect way, but a powerful way. They shape attitudes, or at least they make you question certain things if they're well made. And then they ask the right questions and then present a problem in a psychologically and emotionally persuasive way. If you're just preaching, sermonizing, then that has no effect. I think it turns off the audience. But if you present it in a human, like it's a human problem, not just a woman's problem, and have an insight, and then don't make it a one-sided presentation, then again it becomes the narrative loses a certain kind of a balance, because no problem is so simple that there are no shades of gray in it. There's no just one right and one wrong. Of course, in case of the way it is shown, the gruesome violence and all that, I agree. But I'm talking of a more sensible cinema where there is like the complexity of interaction, of relationships. Once they are portrayed, you get a more understanding of why people behave the way. Is there a most what's a rational way, equal way of settling a problem, understanding the other's point of view? Because most of these are emotional issues. They're not like the outright oppression of somebody. Yes, there are cases like if you see a film like Manthan, and then you see the structure of that village politics, the old dairy owner and now the cooperative that is being formed, and the resistance by the earlier powerful person against this cooperative movement where everybody has an equal share. There the issue is clear cut, but there again Benegal makes the story much more interesting because Smita's character and Dr. Rao, who's come and he's the expert over there for forming there's a suggestion of attraction between them. And her husband is not a very nice character. And you also have the Nasir's character, who's like, full of frustration and anger. So there are so many forces at play, so that even there you see there could be divisions among this cooperative society. She wants to drive these people away when they come to ask her for the sample of the milk and all that. So, all that resistance was there. So what I mean to say is that when there is a larger situation like this, which is both economic and social, and it's a political structure, it's much easier to portray it in such a way that you see who's the victim and who's the oppressor, and you can resolve it. But if it's a emotional situation within a family, and then who's being victimized, whose rights are not being recognized, it becomes like a more complex problem. So you can't really preach anything. As somebody asked me about the Bahu's role, and I suddenly thought of this film Sansar, and you find all most of the characters have their points of view, and how do you resolve this conflict? So film can never directly influence you except in the sense of fashion and trends, I suppose. But nowadays, I think what is happening with that today's films is that it's the other way. Films are picking up social mores of behavior, norms of behavior. So you see, I call the 90s a bridge between the older cinema, pre-globalization, and the bridge to the much more globalized cinema of the last 2 decades. So when globalization came in the 90s, and then it's now difficult for us in the day of Zoom meetings and social media and influencers to think of what a difference cable TV coming at that point and exposure to other forms of uh, entertainment and narrative patterns that you could see on your cable TVs, because then you could make comparisons with how your films are working and how the other kind of cinema exists in the world outside. Earlier we had Doordarshan showing our Indian panorama films and Sunday afternoons and all that, but exposure to different kinds of cinema was limited unless you're a film society member or you went to film festivals and saw other kinds of films. Otherwise, you had your Hindi films, and if you're living in Bombay, you'd see some Marathi films or other regional language films, and you'd see Hollywood. These were the points of comparison for you. But somehow, with this, I mean, you had all these soap operas, this one, Dynasty, and all of them coming in, and then Friends and Dynasty. All these things were like lapped up by the Indian audience when they started getting them on cable TV. They said, okay, there can be relationships like this. Young people can have these kind of relationships. And they sort of, I think it shook up the older part of the Indian audience. They felt that if this is globalization, will our culture be destroyed? That was the immediate response that you had from the from large sections of conservative Indian society. And then I think filmmakers, I think especially for this, you can say Surat Barjatya was the one who started making the films with this kind of a theme, Maine Pyar Kiya. So the hero who's come studied abroad, he comes home. There's the rich westernized girl suggested by the father, and then there's the family friends, very picked up by his mother. She sees her as a good bahu and a good wife material. And it starts that way, and with the usual ups and downs in a story, he opts for this girl. And then you had other films like next was Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. There again, it's like the young people. It's like it goes on. It's like a whole wedding spectacle, and how many songs, and the young people don't make their own decisions till somebody else uh, intervenes, so that they feel that you want to show the younger people pursuing, like Madhuri in that film is studying computers. I think she's supposed to be, because you never see her working with anything over there. But most of the time, the girls are waiting at the table, serving the others. You know, the good Bahu kind of an idol is set up, their ideal, and they don't assert themselves, and the family structure survives. So this was the reaction. You have all the glamour, the good songs, the opulent sets, and the humor and everything, but the final message is the Indian youth will not let go of your sanskar as such, and then go totally give up their family values of tradition. So I think this was the immediate unconscious response to the threat. They saw it as a cultural threat of globalization. So India, I think, is usually culturally, I call it a schizophrenic society, because you want see, I mean, it comes in the portrayal of women on the screen. You want her to be a good, virtuous girl, but you also want to play up her sex appeal. So but don't give autonomy to her, agency to her to exert her own will and do what she wants. She always has to be a biddable girl, even if she's very westernized in the beginning. Towards the end, in the earlier films, she'll be wearing a salwar kameez or a sari, and then she'll be like very demure, and give up those rebellious ways. So this was Alangpur about Paschim and films like that in the 70s and all, 60s, 70s. But now in the 90s, you see, I mean, the iconic film for the times, DDLJ, Dilwale. It's set in the West, and they come, and they too, I mean, the love story is beautiful. But when they come back to Punjab, and here is the other mother figure that I forgot to mention, Farida Jalal. She tells her, my education was stopped so that my brother could study. So she has gone through that. And the husband is the father is the one who says, जो मैं बोलूंगा वो ही करेगी, kind of laying down the law. She wants to give her, she says, run away with Raj. She's willing to give the jewelry. They said, no, we'll marry only with the blessings of the parents. This is like the total negation of what a love story was. You think of world, it's not Romeo and Juliet, it's not Laila Majnu, it is not Shireen Farhad kind of stories we have been told, the world lost for love. No, these are the ones who want to be good children, get the blessings of their elders. So the audience was getting the reassurance that, okay, our children might look Western, behave in a Western way, but when it comes to the crunch, they will at least try to persuade their parents to see their point of view. So, Ja Simran Ja, जी ले अपनी zindagi. He gives her permission. So that permission is what they want. So you see what is happening. It's a huge success. I mean, 25 years in Maratha Mandir, the film has been running, and when they wanted to stop that show, they say that there was a kind of a audience protested in Bombay, that they wanted the film to be running. Like it is like a people saw it when they were young and they were seeing later with their children. They said that is the thing with the film. So I think it was a master stroke at that point to please the young, please the conservative, the parents, everyone, that everything will be hunky dory. And so this was the original response to globalization, which we thought is going to make us culturally rootless, because and globalization was being talked about everywhere. And then it was also politically at the time when Francis Fukuyama, because the fall of communism, of the collapse of Soviet Union, they said it's the Western liberal democracy has won. There'll be no more wars. So that was the final battle won. It was very premature of him to say, but that was the uh, thought that people bought into in those days. So that has now given way slowly, gradually, because there has been resistance from economists and politicians to globalization, that it's not working well for all countries and for the poorer section of people. But if economic globalization is being questioned, cultural globalization is, to my mind, it's irreversible. Once it has been let out, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. So then, and the biggest change has come, I see straight away, in that the genre of the rom-com, romantic comedy, is the one that everybody, when they set out to make a film, the safe thing is, chalo, ek rom-com bana denge, that will be like, you introduce a new actors and fresh faces, and we'll shoot abroad, we'll shoot here, that kind of a compromise. It's a commercially safe bet, making a rom-com. But you've seen the kind of changes that Yash Raj Films has brought into the romantic comedy. The first, Salam Namaste, set in Australia, and then it's a premarital. I mean, they're living together. I mean, as roommates, but then they become romantically involved, and then she's going to be could be an unwed mother. She's going to be a doctor, and then you have Shuddha Desi romance. Can you think of the kind of situation in a place, city like Jaipur? It's not Bombay or Delhi, not a cosmopolitan big city. Yes, it's a touristy place. There are exposed to a lot of tourists, but the whole situation is almost seems bizarre. They're running away from every time they have to make a commitment to marry. They don't, I think marriage is something that is being questioned there. Why should you get married? And this is coming from the Yash Raj stable. That I think the documentary, 4-part documentary, The Romantics, there's a big interview with, I mean, there is a whole lot of Yash Ji's interviews are there, but the most important uh, uh, statements come from Aditya Chopra. The audience is changing, and we can't give that old kind of love stories set in Switzerland, which I always call a chiffon pallo flirting with the hero's colorful sweaters. That used to be the standard image that you would get in a Yash Raj film. But now the whole thing is changing. Things like a Band Baja Barat, where the girl, Shruti Kakkar, has the more of a say in the business that she's going to start and in the relationship. I mean, this is, earlier it would be like an unequal relationship between the young the couple, the young couple. And usually it would be the hero would be the dominant character. But here it is Shruti. She is the one who sets the tone of the relationship. And she says, no pyar where there is vyapar. That is the rule of that partnership. But yes, in Exuberant, they sleep together, but he's scared of it. He doesn't want to commit. She's hurt, but she says, okay, it doesn't matter. We'll go get along like. But of course, since it's a romantic comedy and it is made in a commercial format, because one of the things I stress in my new book that this millennial woman is not such a radical departure, because after all, it is still a story told in a commercial format. It has to get back at least its investment. So it is change within a safe commercial formula. The formula is changing and the formula is flexible, and filmmakers are making this formula flexible. And along with the romantic comedy, there is also the anti-romantic comedy kind of a thing that Love Ranjan has brought out 2-3 films where the girls are scheming, what do you say, schemers who are trying to get hold of the boy's property or so. So with the romantic comedy, you also have the anti-rom-com kind of a fun film. So it was like it was not misogynistic, but at the same time, it did have this kind of a reaction. But the romantic comedy, which has been dying out in Hollywood, because Hollywood had made the romantic comedy with When Harry Met Sally, or so many of these films were like huge hits right from the time of Cary Grant and those kind of heroes. You had the War of the Sexes. You had different pairs, Humphrey Bogart and who was that? I forget the name, the other great actress. So there were these well-honed romantic comedy was there in the 80s and 90s, and they were running out of romantic comedies, like a dead genre, no longer viable. Whereas India has rediscovered, Bollywood has rediscovered the rom-com as a place to experiment with new types of stories, which is, I think, which I think was very brave, and it was also very successful. I'm not enumerating all the films because I want to go on to other films, like the subversives have come in, and those who are the stereotypical characters that you find in films now. Like how do you classify Tanu Weds Manu? Is it a romantic comedy, or is it like a take on a new kind of a woman who's not satisfied with any of the men that she's met, and she's experimenting with relationships? And and when Tanu Weds Manu returns, it's again the same kind of the woman. She's very capricious. The character played by Kangana in that film, so very different to what the film that made her famous, Queen. She's such a lovable girl, very sweet, she's as sweet as the chashni in which this mithai of her father's mithai shop is soaking the sweets in. She's such a well brought up but sheltered girl, and she's left at the altar before she is getting married. Like it's like mandap pe usko ठुकरा दिया, that the groom, because he's now working in London and she's too much of a Benji type girl for him. She's not very hip enough. And the thing that she says, she's paid for the honeymoon, she'll go for the honeymoon on her own. So this is again a shortcut. To travel has broadened her mind. So she meets all those experiences, but she still remains like very lovably virginal. She can't, she will go to the Hamburg where the sex shops and all are there, but she's so innocent that she doesn't know what they're used for. And she's makes good friends with these three men with whom she shares a room. And then knows, I mean, her what is the acceptance of other kinds of thinking and other kinds of, and she gets the self-confidence on her own that, you know, she can manage on her own. So when she is going back, and when she comes back, and there would have been mother-in-law, and Rajkumar Rao says, please Ajao, I mean, they want to uh, get her married again, and she walks off a, with a kind of a confident stride and a satisfied smile on her face. And to me, this reminds me in a shorter way of not taking back a repentant, here it was a fiance, but earlier in the 80s, it was Arth that Mahesh Bhatt had made, where Shabana she's an orphan, and her whole relationship is centered around her husband. When he has this uh, affair with a model and an actress, she's just shattered. But then when he divorces her, I mean, he wants to say, gives her the divorce paper on a, I think either a birthday or her wedding anniversary. She has to finally find herself to be able to stand on her own feet. And it's a struggle. And when she has the confidence of doing that, and her husband comes back, and very sheepishly he says, I'm sorry, take me back. She says no. And Shabana is on record saying that she wouldn't have done the film if the script says she'll take the husband back. After all this thing, a woman who's now found her confidence that she can be by herself will not accept this reconciliation, forced reconciliation. So that was actually a sort of a Indian remake of a film called The Unmarried Woman, Jill Clayburgh, I remember. So this was married. It's not the one who has not been married. Her marriage broke up, so unmarried woman. And so I call in the Queen Rani is the disengaged girl. It's not that she's given up on men or something. She'll meet somebody suitable, and her family will see that she'll get married, but she has the guts to walk away from a relationship that actually demeaned her. So this is the kind of confidence, and that film made her India's sweetheart, you know. So this is within a engaging story. So this is where the films of these last 2 decades are different from the parallel cinema. The parallel cinema had a broader social purpose, and even its feminism was like the 80s feminism in India was a collective fight for women's rights, for reform in, this custodial rapes were there in, they were fighting against that, and equal wages. These were on issues on which the women of the 80s fought. The millennial woman is not that way kind of a unionist. She's a very much an individual. So you can say she's a post-feminist woman now. She's not like forming a union and getting, others together to fight. She's fighting for her own, what she wants, her choices. So you see a film like Piku, such a different kind of a film, and a very selfish father who doesn't want the daughter to get married when somebody says, oh, my daughter is not a virgin. And she makes no bones about her love life, if she's got a dates and boyfriends and all that, but she hasn't found anybody. I found one bit very, very amusing. Her business partner sets up a date, and then she says he hasn't seen a single Satyajit Ray film, he doesn't know what it is. So the cultural wars as such, that you found even in Wikidona, that the Punjabi boy and the Bengali girl, and you found the same kind of cultural wars in two states, Punjabi boy and a South Indian girl. So I think India is confident enough to now, Indian society can make kind of what to say, can laugh at these kind of cultural differences, which is a good thing. This has gone beyond stereotypes. And the as I said, there are not many iconic characters as such, but trendsetters, I would say, in trendsetters who break certain rules. And you can't think of a film like Pink and Anarkali of Ara being made even 20 years ago. I don't know how many of you have seen Pink. Pink is talked about and seen much more. And it was like, you compare that film to something in the 70s, like Insaf Ka Tarazu, about how you show a rape victim. And that was a B.R. Chopra film. And there again, because Zina Taman plays a model who's very westernized, who's free with men, and the Raj Babbar character, who's the rapist, is initially the first half of the film, he's shown as a man who is in love with her and she's rejecting him. So you unconsciously create sympathy for him. But whereas what do you see in Pink? The format is different in the sense that these are three girls, working girls, living together as roommates. And even there in a place like Delhi, people are like saying what time the girls come, what time do they go. So there's always a bit of a suspicious attitude to them. And it it says like the accused in Hollywood with Jodie Foster. She's a sex worker who goes to a bar later, and she's wearing a mini, but she's raped. But her lawyer's thing is, she can be wearing provocative clothes, she can be in a wrong place at a wrong time, but that does not give the right to a man to rape her. So that was the accused, which was like a landmark film in Hollywood. And Pink sort of says the same thing, not of molestation. A woman can say, a girl can say, she can sit with them in a concert, she can have dinner with him, she can have a drink with him. But when he wants to go further, she has a right to say no. And then she becomes the victim. I mean, actually, she becomes the accused in court. And there is the powerful argument that Amitabh Bachchan makes, in that he comes out of retirement to defend these girls. Then he asks her uncomfortable questions, and and then she says she doesn't know whether he's cross-examining her or he's defending her. Through those questions, he wants to tell, this is society. You have to conform to these rules to be considered a good girl. So otherwise, they want the young men need to be. They think that they need to be protected from women, girls like you. You don't know exactly what happened. It half works like a thriller, but the girls are very relatable and identifiable. You can. So Pink was in the setting of Delhi. Then you had Anarkali Afara, made by a first-time filmmaker. She's a Swara Bhaskar plays a girl who's a Nautanki dancer, in Bihar. And in a small, when a performance, I don't know how many of you see it, I'm just telling you in a GIF. The vice chancellor of the university, who's a lecturer, comes and onto the stage and tries to touch her. She says, please don't touch me. I'm performing, but that doesn't mean it gives you the right to touch. But she gets framed. She tries to go to Delhi, but he's a powerful man, and she's brought back to the same place when the video of what had happened is shown. It's like in a way predictable, But it takes the thing that even if she's a public performer of raunchy songs on stage, doesn't mean that she's easily available to everyone. So these are the two powerful statements about no means no, I think, which has never been said so clearly in our cinema. Now, I want to, for me, the most, actually, the iconic character uh, for in this millennium is Kahani with Vidya Balan. You know, because this is in a chapter called Woman the Hero, and I used Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, where he's a scholar of mythologies, and he's found that all mythologies in all cultures across the world have common themes, that the hero sets out on a perilous journey, and he's given a task, and he meets with so many obstacles in the way, and what helps him succeed, and he calls this the monomyth. And in India, we also have, I mean, we are a society where mythology is very much a living presence. So when you have a hero, he can be a troubled hero, is like an Arjun, the warrior. Or very often, if it's a hero who's on the wrong side, but a upright character would be Karna. And then very often a powerful woman who's taking her stance is like associated with Durga or Kali, you know. Even if she is not called Durga, you find that in one of Smita's bad films, she's taking revenge. So when she's there, she is wearing a red sari. There are temple bells, you know, ringing in the background, and then she shoots the car of the villains so that it gets it's set on fire. So that's that kind of a what do you say, over the top, and this ready reckoning that a woman has to be like a Kali or like a Durga to take revenge is become like a cliche. But whereas what happens is, even in the super world of Marvel, the superheroes of Marvel world, they've all been men. But till uh, Gal Gadot in Wonder Woman breaks the mold, and she is on par with the heroes. So, similarly, you find that in Kahani, you have all the qualities of the hero. There's a mystery, there is the narrative of trying to find the truth of a task that she's been given. So, it is works like a thriller, but with so many layers in it. So, I find that Vidya Bakshi of Kahani is a true icon of this last in the last 2 decades. And the myth of the hero's quest always has certain recognizable symbols, or narrative tropes. There is one is that is armed with knowledge, and there's always a talisman that protects or helps the hero in certain dangerous conditions. So here what happens, what is her knowledge? She's a computer hacker, she said. She's got the knowledge that which is so essential these days of being an IT specialist. And when she's her pregnancy, that a pregnant woman, a heavily pregnant woman like her, would not be a threat. It's like a protection. And her talisman is that prosthetic belly that she puts out, that she pulls out, and then she is like, there comes, it's the puja time, Durga puja time, and the people whom she has, they're supposed to be her helpers, but they want to find who she is, and they're each using the other for their own purpose. But she melts away in that crowd of women with that sindoor, and everybody is wearing a white sari with that red border for the puja thing. And in that crowd, they won't be able to find her, and she goes away. And she uses that, it's such a, as if almost it has been determined that he is going to have all these elements that are associated with a hero's journey and a hero's quest, but changed the gender and made it a woman the hero, which I don't know, they say it's now a shiro. So this film and also the dirty picture, where she is like, it's based on Silk Smitha's life. And if you've seen Silk Smitha films, and Vidya Balan with her tam bram looks is no way like the dusky and husky voiced Smita, but she gets into that role. She says, okay, one of the tenets of feminism now is a woman can use her sexuality, her attractive, her looks, and her ability to attract as a means knowingly. So there is no hypocrisy over there. And in the Tamil film world at that time, and this was like a very exploitative system. And she tries to ace the system, game the system, and get her own way on her own terms. But again, towards the end, it's like tragic. She the so-called art filmmaker is in love with her, though in the beginning he's contemptuous of her. But she dies, she because she almost gets caught in a raid of a porn film industry. Unwittingly, she goes there for work, because when you are using your looks as your the means of survival in the kind of roles that she's playing of a what do you call a the performer, like an item girl or something. Once she loses a look, there are others to supplant her. So then she commits suicide, and she's wearing a bridal red sari. She's put on a big bindi, and then it's like a it's it's a kind of a tragedy at that. Why did she have to commit suicide? Vidya Balan asked a very interesting question when this book was released, and she was there. We were in conversation. Then she said, why do people expect that every heroine has to be a feminist, has to conform to feminism now? Earlier, it was like said, a woman earlier in the 60s and 70s, she had to be feminine and demure and subdued. That was the ideal. Now, why do audience and critics expect every strong woman who's portrayed on the screen to be like overtly feminist? Can she not have all different qualities, contradictory qualities? And I thought it was a very valid question that she was asking, because you can't have, then that also becomes another stereotype, doesn't it? If you say that she has to be strong, she cannot take this way out of, in the end, humiliation she can't bear, and she has this kind of a dramatic death. I think there is a sometimes the audience and the critics also write a template for who is to be the feminist icon or so, and expect her to conform to it. She can have a complex character. She can have uh, a strong desire to be her own woman. At the same time, she can also be different, has certain weaknesses, certain, she wants emotional sustenance. They say a woman can't have it all, they say, but I mean, we are human. We want to have it all. We want to have a good career. We want to have a good family life. We want to have, so many things together, which one doesn't rule out the other. So this is something that sometimes filmmakers also fall into this trap of creating one-dimensional characters. Good or bad, the one-dimensional characters never become memorable as such. If you see what makes two actresses of the parallel cinema so unique, Smita had that. I would call her, in my book I write, she is Indian cinema's every woman. Like, she can be somebody, she can be a girl in Bengal. She played in Aravindan's film Chidambaram. She's a Tamil girl, and in another film she's Akaler Sandhane. She's herself, Smita Patil, going to act in that film, and then she can be even in Bhavni Bhavai. She's like this flaming gypsy rebel who's, asking others to revolt against their status. And in Mirch Masala, she can be leading this whole village group together in that factory. And I mean, it's a momentary victory, but what a operatic victory, the last scene of Mirch Masala. And she can be Najma, the girl in Hyderabad, who, for her own sake, can arrange a rich person coming from the Middle East and to a young girl. You know, it's almost like selling because she's getting a commission for that. So, and the character with neck, and then she examines herself. So she could fit into all these different ethnic types of Indian society. So that she had that unremarkable, if you, as Shyam Benegal says, if you met her on the street, you wouldn't remember her. She doesn't. But put her before the camera, and the camera loves her. And she gets into under the skin of that character. With Shabana, she's a trained actor, but with her, the capacity is to get into the sur. She catches the sur of a film, of a narrative. She fits into the whole narrative without any jarring. Without any jarring element, because sometimes Smita brought an unwanted intensity into a role that did not demand it. Everybody else was like working superficially, superficial emotions and or melodramatic emotions, and she would bring her brand of intensity into that narrative, which was like out of place with compared to all the others. Whereas with Shabana, she always knew this is the way this film is going. This is the narrative pitch. So I have to catch the sur and be in perfect pitch with that. So that's, I think, the unique gift both the actors had. So that's why they have become our iconic actors. I mean, Shabana is still going very strong, and she's playing very good roles. And Smita, unfortunately, we remember her for what she had done. I find that today there'll be Vidya Balan, who may not get all these kind of roles. Tapsi Pannu, she can deliver. I mean, a film like Manmarzia, not many actors would have taken up that role, that she can simultaneously, have the get married and still go back to the lover. She's between the two men, like she can't make up her mind. So that kind of, I think you had Smita Patil play that role in Chakra, the two men that she's attracted to in as Amma in that slum. But these are very, very rare, and it takes a lot of courage to play these kind of roles and for filmmakers to write those roles. But you're getting it now. So what I feel is that this kind of the the millennial woman in real life, like the urban working woman who has a say in her own life, wants to, and so many of the girls we see in Bangalore and Bombay, they have come away from the small towns and they're living on their own in these big cities. And Friedman wrote, the journalist, he wrote The Earth is Flat, and he spent a lot of time in India and especially in Bangalore, and interacting with these girls from small towns and enjoying the freedom of living on their own in a city like Bangalore, and away from that, and then they're making something of their own lives. So this is the something that he says, the earth is flat, because there's a, I mean, it was the economic way of saying that everybody, it's an even playing field for everyone. but that book was written somewhere in the 90s, I guess, 90s or late 90s. But I also saw the documentary where he's interviewing many of these girls. So this is the kind of reality that you're seeing. And these are the girls who are making, earning enough money to make a difference in the market. So the market also caters to their demands. So that's why I said this Millionaire Room is the brand, because they are the ones who are like a Deepika Padukone or Anushka. Somebody is selling a brand, selling diamonds and dreams, as they say. So, and they have this segment of empowered women in the cities who are free to make their choices. And also the sexual freedom has come in, because you see a play like the Vagina Monologues, which was done by staged in Bombay. Initially, even in Bombay, audience felt a little uncomfortable, but she took a Hindi version of the play all the way to Punjab and showed the play over there, you know. So it's become like I mean, you can't think of these kind of influences working alongside advertising, alongside the economic power of a small group of women. So that is what has brought this, added to this change in the new films. And that's how indie filmmakers can make a difference. I mean, otherwise, would you think a Devdi would have been made? Where I think, and Devdi and Sahib Bibi or Gangster classics have been, like, subverted, and very successfully. Because in Devdas, what has happened? The two women in Devdas' life, and he's a narcissist, vacillating. He's like a Hamlet character in Indian cinema and literature. Can't make up his mind. Uh, is afraid to decide anything. And the two powerful women that he meets, they both give up their lives for him. Though, even in the end, Paro is married into a much very respected Zamindar's family. But when Devdas dies, you remember the last scene, how she comes running to see that somebody is dead at her gates, who's come back. That, and in both the, of course, it is much more melodramatic in Sanjay Leela Bhansali's film than the Bimal Roy film. But here you find that both the modern Paro, he's changed the location from Bengal to Punjab and Delhi, and he's got his Chanda and his Paro can very well live without him. Especially Paro. She is very happy with her marriage, and after the last time she comes to his room, washes his clothes, and then says, "You are a slut," she tells him, and you don't deserve to be, you're too selfish. And she says, "Don't call me or don't come interfere in my life. I'm very happy." This is the modern Paro who's made a life for herself. Chanda is a sex worker, but she's also studying in college. And that was based on a famous video of a Delhi public school video that went viral in and destroyed that girl's reputation. So that is used in this film as for the Chanda's character. She's not just a survivor herself, but she'll get better, and she's the one who rescues Dev from destroying himself, and then says, "You have to report to the police," and puts him on the straight line. I mean, it doesn't say in so many words, but he admits that he needs her now, and he'll listen to her. At least nobody else has been able to talk any sense into this self-indulgent narcissist till Chanda comes in. And the whole point is the film has a music track that's almost like a separate narrative in the film, and there are acknowledgments to the earlier Devdases. small little scenes that you would even ignore without watching. If you remember the Bimal Roy Devdas, Paro is going in a palki and Chandramukhi is walking along that dirt track, and they just pass each other across. And there's just a moment when they look at each other and go away. They never meet again. In Devdi again, twice in a train, Paro is going to that small town to get her nude photograph printed. And there's Chanda running away from her uncle and grandmother's house where she's been sent. So they're both sitting opposite each other. You see them in the window, through the window, they're sitting opposite each other, and that shot is repeated twice. So there is like acknowledgement of the Devdas, of Bimal Roy's Devdas. Then there is in one of those bars where he's going, there is Shah Rukh Khan with his hat in the Sanjay Leela Bhansali's film. So, they acknowledge, these filmmakers have the courage to acknowledge the originals and then make the new narrative their own. And Chanda is watching on TV Marudala, the song that's picturized on Madhuri. So the earlier films made on the same, I mean, Devdas has been remade in so many languages, but these are the two most watched ones that most film audiences know, and it's absolutely I mean, I wouldn't say radical and subversive and brilliant. And I thought purists would hate the film, but Rinki Bhattacharya, who's a very good friend of mine, and she's Bimal Roy's daughter, she loves Devdi also as much as she likes her father's Devdas. So, and again, Tigmanshu Dhulia isn't this kind of ironies, and all of them are beyond him. But again, what has he done with Choti Bahu's character in Sahib Bibi or Gangster? She's Choti Rani, and she has an affair, roaring affair with the gangster who was like the driver of the car. And it's all the political life in small town. You don't know whether it's UP or Bihar, where the ex-Raja, who doesn't have much money except the naam and the shahrat, but the the means for it is he has to buy into these contractors for road repairment, and politics, contractor, business. It's a very complicated narrative. But there again, Choti Rani survives a killing, murder attempt at a shooting party. Her husband is in a wheelchair. Now she's the one who is calling the shots. And when time comes for elections, she's on the terrace and he's on a wheelchair. She makes him wave to the crowd and she waves. She has mastered the power game. She's not just a survivor, but she's one up on them. So this what do you say? It's not just retelling, but subverting the old narrative so successfully is something that could be done only, I think, in these times when I think because it may not be a huge commercial success, but it has its viewership and it has its critical acclaim. And in this kind of a sense of freedom, because there is a kind of a niche market for different things now. I think very few films aim at that all India big thing. I mean, a Pathan comes around, a Jawan comes around, Gadar 2 comes around. They are the big all India films. But would you have thought that somebody would make an English as her first film? Making a mother of two come all the way to New York and learn English and win the respect of her daughter, dismissive daughter, and her husband. And Tabu getting kind of gray roles in like Andhadhun, or she'll make Haider. I mean, Haider, she's brilliant, I mean, this retelling of Hamlet by Vishal Bharadwaj. Gertrude is such a colorless character in the original Hamlet. He makes the mother so important, and she's overshadows Hyder in the film. So this is the kind of cinema that is now possible in with this kind of a freedom that has come in the filmmaking in mainstream cinema. I mean, I would call Vishal Bharadwaj a mainstream filmmaker now. May not be like a Rohit Shetty film, that kind of a thing, but he's still a mainstream filmmaker. And Anurag Kashyap is a mainstream filmmaker. And the kind of roles that they have written for women, like the working women. Earlier, we used to say, oh, she's working somewhere. You never show her at work, except I think only maybe Mother India. You see Nargis having the plow on her shoulder and tilling the land, actual physical work that she's doing. But you never showed her, or she would be, I mean, otherwise they would be cooking or washing clothes, and that's also work. But when they say she's an earning working woman, you never saw that in films. Now you see that Hindi cinema seems to have a particular love for women in the media. The more important films that have shown working women are, first was Lakshya. I think Preeti Zinta plays a reporter, like Barkha Dutt went and reported Kargil war. So, you can have immediate relatability between the screen character and the original inspiration. Then, no one killed Jessica, or who killed Jessica? The Jessica Lal case, whereas Rani Mukherjee plays this feisty, you know, this thing foul-mouthed anchor, and she takes pride in being. Somebody calls her a bitch because she's so rude. She takes pride in being called a bitch, but she'll go ahead and get you know, the real the big shot son, expose him and see that he goes to jail. So these are the kind of working women you find. And Kankana Sen Sharma has made it a specialty to play the writer or the journalist in films. Page 3, she comes from Bangalore to in Bombay as if for a career. Wake Up Sid, she comes from Calcutta to become a writer. And she has this I think she has those acting genes in her that make her a very, very persuasive working woman that you see in Bombay. And in Luck by Chance, I think, which is Zoya Akhtar's very good first film, which is told from an insider's point of view of what's happening in Bollywood. She's got an insider's freedom and knowledge to make fun of them, to satirize it. But then she plays this struggling actor who's waiting for her chance on the big screen, but then finally makes her peace and happy with her what she's doing on TV, where she gets the plum roles. So these are all very real characters that are being created with whom you can relate as working women. And even Anushka Sharma, she did I think in Jab Tak Hai Jaan, she's a documentary filmmaker, and a documentary filmmaker not with a soft subject like something with the human relationships or something about fashion or something. She's making a film on this bomb disposal expert. So, tough army subject. And she plays the role of what Rani Mukherjee did in Veer Zara, bringing these two estranged, I mean, separated lovers together after many ages. And she's again a journalist in PK. So, I think what happens is, I think the Bombay industry is it knows more familiar with journalists because they interact with them And so their favorite working women seem to be journalists, and next would be the police, the policewoman, Mardangi. You see Rani Mukherjee's avatar as the no nonsense, committed police, the cop there, and she has a personal interest in getting because now she has this. Because of who she is, she gets Yashraj films to write the kind of scripts that would suit her now. Hitchki, and those are the kind of films that are coming up now for the older actresses who may not fit into the romantic heroine slot. So it is I won't say the whole worldwide is open. It is, the beginning has been made with different kinds of narratives, different kinds of portrayal of women, interesting portrayals of women. And but with OTT coming in and opening other doors, I don't know how long this trend in Bollywood will continue. There's a question mark about that in my mind, because most of the interesting work is now going to OTT series. So, is it time for questions, Shaileshji?
Sure.
Sure, we'll open up the gallery soon, and we will definitely invite the questions. But before that, I would like to make a small comment to thank you, first of all.
And sorry, if you can get your video on, we should be okay, hopefully.
Let's try that.
Do you want me to try the video on?
Yes, please.
Let me see. Oh, it's again.
Maithili ji, we would on behalf of yes,
Good.
you are on video now. Thank you. On behalf of Swar-Akshar, we would like to thank you, first of all, and you made us understand the word icon and the way you explained everything, and that icons are not just icons but trendsetters. And the way you put the lens, we might have seen most of these movies, most of us might have seen, because we call ourselves movie buffs, so I'm sure we have seen these movies, but you put an entirely different lens to that. And probably, and I'm sure, at least I can say on my behalf, that might have missed a lot of fine points, and I will have to see all those movies again to understand what you were trying to connect to. And where you put the Shiro, where you really established the Shiro character in Hindi cinema, and we really thank you for that. And I just will start the gallery now for more questions. And before that, I would start with the question. When you said you connected two art forms when you talked about Kalyani in Bandini, and you said it was like an Amrita Shergill portrait of the high cheekbones and chiseled face and all that. So do you think that casting is very important, and because you also said for Rosie, Wahida Rehman in Guide, that only Wahida Rehman could have played that role. So do you think, and how do you take how do you see casting as an important factor in making cinema?
It is very, very important, because it is an audiovisual medium. So you have to relate to what the character looks like on the screen for you. If you read a novel, you can imagine the character, you can, as you like. But then to this, in a way, the character has to be not only, I'm not talking about good look. Yes, a engaging presence is important, but the expressiveness of the face, the body language with which she can convey, it is not just the words. a person, an actor acts with the entire body and the voice and the physicality of the character. So I think because Newton has such an austere face, the high cheekbones, and these are all black and white films. So there is no, this color doesn't distract from the sculptured look of the face. Once you have color come into the film, and the color initially was used very badly. You have color, so you splash color all over. They're just clashing with each other. So there is no, some filmmakers use colors so beautifully that there is a color coding. Like Kumar Shani makes his films, like the colors that he uses so specific to that one particular scene. So there is a whole language of color that he is using in his films. So, but most filmmakers are just they want either opulent look or which color. The star might say, "This is the color that suits me. I want only this color," and things like that. But when you have a black and white character, there is such a haunting beauty about black and white films, because there's no distraction of this badly used color which is clashing. Then you see that, you remember the scene, there are these group of women coming in, and the jailer says they want somebody to come and look after the TB patient. And she's at the center of the group, and she's the one who's got the shawl on her head. And it looks like highlights the sculpted beauty of her face and a certain kind of an austere look, and with Wahida ji in Guide, she has this certain kind of she's grace personified, for me, the grace of being, the grace of movement that she has. And she's so light on her feet when she's dancing. It's almost as if the dancer's training as I think in her early childhood and teen years has crept into her acting, so that it's almost like she's internalized that mudras and abhinaya and shows it on her face and in her body language. So I think to play a character like Rosie, she has to be a dancer with that kind of intuitive understanding of body language. That's why I said it had to be Wahida for Guide.
Thank you. Thank you. And now we invite our friends if they have any questions, please raise your hand or your virtual hand. That would help us, and we can invite questions. Friends, anybody has any question? Rekha Iyer, please go ahead. Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Maithili ji, thank you very much for everything. It was very insightful. What do you think? This item girl thing will go away eventually?
Yeah, I don't, it is so disturbing, because the item girl whole concept now, you have celebrity item girls now. Like you had Kajrare, Aishwarya doesn't have anything else to do in the film, she does that dance. And then your, which is the other one, Chikni Chameli. These big stars doing that item roles. And then what is that? The other one is with Karina in one of those
We call
those films. This thing, what is that? Something Miss
Fevicol
Call
song.
say something for Fevicol kind of. I mean, I find it really objectionable, because what happens even in these films is the camera seems to be fragmenting the woman's body. If okay, let her dance, she's like that is a whole body is dancing. I mean, her face, her eyes, and but then the camera just cutting her up into different body parts is like denying her the autonomy over her own self. And that's the most objectionable and part. And I remember once a report I read that Anupama Chopra in one of her interviews asked Karan Johar about this using using Katrina Kaif Chitni Chameli. He says he feels he's apologized for it. I don't know how sincere the apology is, but this is I mean, right from the beginning, this has been my big problem with cinema. The way they don't allow a woman autonomy over her own body when it comes to this dance. And the zoom lenses has to be banned, I think, when you're filming dance.
Very, very true. Very true. And I believe Hasu has a question. Hasuben, please go ahead with your question. Unmute yourself.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Sailesh Bhai and Neetaben, for this wonderful opportunity of giving us chance to listen to Maithili ji. It was such a pleasure. It was a learning experience to hear your discourse. Just something came into my mind, like you have so much knowledge, so much critique, or I should say, or whatever, but wonder if anybody from the filmmaking world has ever approached you for any advice on their filmmaking.
No. Filmmakers don't want critics to get involved in any of the film. As long as you praise the films, that's okay. But you write something critical about a film, and they're I know, but then, we are both doing our jobs, right? They make the kind of films that they want. When we watch a film, each of us is a critic, and we all respond to a film in our own way. We find something to like, we find something not to liking, and something even objectionable, or you find something very silly in the film. As I said to joke, I said, we all are critics, but sometimes we critics are paid to write about the films. Actually, somebody used to say, we all buy tickets, but that is not true. When we buy tickets and go to the films, okay, only sometimes we used to have the previews, press shows for a film before its release, and sometimes we just couldn't make it on that day. We couldn't. I mean, something else is happening in your life. You're not all the time only going to watch the films, but go to a theater, buy my ticket, and go and watch the film. Sometimes there would be 2 and 3 releases in 1 week. But I said, I had stopped doing these weekly reviews of films long ago. I said, that's too little time to reflect on a film. And then sometimes you have to, you can't choose the films that you want to write about, because the paper or some that you're writing about wants you to write about. If there are 4 films releasing in a week, they want you to write at least 3 of them, and you really don't have the time or the inclination. You have to watch a lot of rubbish. You can't walk out of a film. So I chose later that I will stop this kind of reviewing. I'll do a column, monthly column, and choose the kind of subjects, the films that I want to write about. So I'm not under that pressure of going and seeing the films. But then every viewer of a film has a right to critically write. Everyone, you'll talk about it with your friends, right? You're being a critic there.
Very true. Very true. An excellent take on being a critic. But your minute observations that you have made, and it makes you such a genuine film critic and genius film critic, I should say. And I'm sure all the viewers would agree with me. And you're putting you made a point, and you are proving each single point why you are saying what you are saying. So once again, on behalf of Swar-Akshar and all our friends, Shailesh and I would like to thank you, Maithili ji, for this time you have given us and a wonderful discourse that you have presented. Thank you very much. Thank you, friends, and thank you for
very
being
much
with
for
us.
inviting me. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm sorry for the technical glitch that came up. I'm sorry for that, but otherwise, I enjoy. See, talking about films is a passion. So it's good to find people enjoying that. Okay.
Thank
That's
you,
all
thank
I
you.
say.
And our apologies too. This technical issues, we don't know where it lands and how it lands. I while you were off Zoom, I did mention that this is only the second instance in about more than 40 sessions we have done. So our apologies, but we enjoyed. I think with that small glitch, it still went so very well. So
And most of the friends stayed with us, even that there was a glitch, most of them were with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.